Hello, everyone. Welcome to the virtual model town hall. This is a little bit unorthodox, but so are many things right now. And I'm really excited that we could get all three of our great governor candidates here for this town hall. We're going to try to keep it short. We have a lot of questions to get through. Thank you to all of you that submitted questions. So I won't beat around the bush too much, but obviously I'm Sam. I'm the current governor. I'll be hosting this town hall. And just to give you a breakdown of how it's going to go, we have 10 questions to get through. The candidates will have 30 seconds per question, and I managed to track down a gavel, so I will be tapping it at 10 seconds. All the questions will be answered in alphabetical order, so we'll be starting with Anna Callahan, then Zach Donaldson, then John Mack, and they'll alternate from there. And I'll be reading the names and delegations of the people that submitted the questions the same way they would be doing that if they were asking the questions themselves. So that's pretty much it. We'll get right into the first question here. We're asking these questions in the order we received them. And all of the questions we received, we are asking, except for those that were very similar to ones that we received earlier. So the first question for Anna is, how are you qualified to lead the program after a 2-year gap in holding a model convention?
After a 2-year gap in holding a model convention, I still think that I'm very qualified for this position. I've been in the program now 4 years, and even with this unorthodox year, we're all still learning from it. And I still have my past 3 years of experience in the House and the Senate, and I just think that that really helps me to work with the rest of the program next year.
Next to Zach Donaldson.
Fantastic question, and I think a lot of candidates we see in real life, both in YAG, well, the immediate response to that is I have XYZ years of experience or I have XYZ positions. Now, that is absolutely crucial to a candidate, but if it's the only metric we use to measure who our leaders would be, the past 3 presidential elections would have had different results. Listen, I have the substantial state committee chair experience. I've been a 2-time committee chair-elect. I have the national experience as a Kona delegate, and I have club experience as a legislative president, but I've also taken risks. I ran for lieutenant governor because I wanted to fight for Senate reforms. I've reached out to youth governors from other states to institute policy in PA. I feel I'm best equipped with these experiences to lead the program after this crisis.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you. So I think that we need an experienced leader who has made decisions affecting delegates that he or she was elected to serve. I think it's absolutely crucial that I've served as president and delegation leader of my delegation, making decisions affecting this coronavirus. You know, I've made decisions via the Zoom call, and I've made decisions on the fly affecting 30 kids in all 3 branches of the program. I'm also the only candidate that will have ever served in the Blue Legislature. Next year will be my 6th year in youth and government. So I think it's my experience. It sets me over the top of all the candidates and puts me in the best position to serve this program next year.
All right, so for this question, we'll be starting with Zach. And this is from Jonah Woolley from Obama. Would you continue Governor Bisno's My Fiscal Notes program, even though we didn't get to see it in action this year?
Fantastic question, Sam, and the answer is yes, I would. So I absolutely believe that the Fiscal Notes program was a great first step in introducing fiscal responsibility to YAG. I know it's not something we necessarily have to worry about as a mock legislature, but it's something that is in the real government. However, there's certain elements of it, and I think we're all in agreement on this, from what I've seen, that I want to reform. I want to make the number value more transparent, maybe modeling it after a closer monetary value. I want to ensure that there's no undue burden on the bill coordinator's table. And I also want to finally ensure that just because a bill is expensive doesn't mean it dampers the discussion on it or the chance of it getting passed.
Thanks, Delegate. Next up, John.
Absolutely. I definitely want to continue it. Like Zach said, I want to assign a monetary value to go along with the 1 to 5, -1 to 5, etc. But the other thing I want to do is look into assigning an administration member whose sole duty is to solely focus on this fiscal note system so that they can sit at the bill coordinator's desk and take less work off the chief of staff and the other members of my administration so it can work more efficiently and not be so overwhelming to those at the bill coordinator's desk. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anna?
I absolutely want to continue this next year. I think that it's a really great idea to add a more realistic, some sort of more realistic measure to our club, because I know that we don't have to focus on any actual budget restraints because this isn't real legislature. But I definitely think that it's a great idea, and I would definitely like to continue it next year. Just make the explanation of it more simple and just make sure that everybody understands it the entire way.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with John for this one. It's from Avani Salunki. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. My apologies if I didn't. From Rosie. And his question or her question is, As youth governor, what specific measures will you take to ensure that this year's model being canceled does not hinder the proceedings of next year's program, specifically model and the weekly meetings of delegations? And we'll start with John for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we talked about in the first question with how am I best qualified to carry on the program, I think it's my experience that makes me the best person to carry on the next year's model convention. You know, I as a delegation leader have had to do this myself. We had to find a way to carry through our club, carry through our presidential elections for next year. So I think this is vital. It gave me experience on doing this. And that being said, I want to publish a newsletter from the Office of the Youth Governor and check in with delegation leaders. I want to have meetings with every delegation that exists in YAG, whether virtually or in person, much like I did throughout the course of my campaign, so that every delegate sees my presence and is well prepared for next year's model convention. Thank you.
Next up, Anna.
So I definitely want to make sure that next year it's just as normal as it usually is. While we're going to take into account that this happened this year, and hopefully next year it won't be the same thing, I definitely want to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and I'm meeting with delegation leaders and talking to all different people and delegates throughout the state to make sure that we're working together to make sure that this can continue what we normally do next year, and just hopefully we'll be able to go back to how we usually operate.
Thank you. Zach?
So we're at an unprecedented time. I think every delegate in here is greatly experienced with state committee chair positions, club leadership positions, but in an unorthodox time, I don't think orthodox experience, no amount of experience can prepare you stepping into this position. So I think at the end of the day, it's the plan you have in place to get us up and running. On day one, I plan on assembling the governor's advisory board to account for the mid-sized to small-sized delegations. They're going to feel a lack of experience. I like John's plan on corporate partnerships. I want to work with that to bring funds back into the program, as well as some fundraising tactics I've learned from the California Youth Governor. It's these plans that are going to help us get back up and running.
Thank you. All right, our next question, we will start with Anna, and it's from Dylan Shapiro at Obama. Which quality do you believe is most important in a youth governor, and why do you possess that quality?
I think the quality that's most important for a governor is compassion, and I definitely think that I represent this quality. I want to work with every single delegate, whether it's one-on-one or through the delegation leader or a mentor in this judicial mentorship program that I intend to set up. But I definitely want to make sure that I am able to relate and help every single delegate so that we can all work together and make sure that we're achieving all the goals that we want to throughout the year.
Thank you. Zach?
I think it's being able to connect with people, because at the end of the day, we're all stronger together than we are as one. I believe I embody this quality because over the past few years, I've tried to utilize every opportunity I can to connect with delegates and put forth the best policy platform possible. I've reached out to youth governors from several different states, including Illinois, California, and Maryland. As a lieutenant governor candidate last year, I reached out to delegates in the Senate to learn what we should reform within that specific program. So I think being able to listen to people, connect with them, compromise, and create the best comprehensive policy is absolutely the most crucial candidate in a governor.
Thank you, Delegate. John?
Yeah, so I think it's commitment. Throughout the course of my campaign, I reached out to every delegation that exists in Pennsylvania Youth in Government. And I'm proud to say that I held meetings, whether virtually or in person, with 12 delegations in Pennsylvania Youth in Government, whether that be the smallest, Potts Grove, with 2 delegates, to the largest, Hershey, with over 100 delegates. So I'm proud to say that. And I think that if we're going to transcend this period of discord and chaos that's in our country and frankly going to be in our program next year, then we need a committed youth governor who's going to be there to prepare the over 700 delegates in this program for next year's model convention. Thank you.
Thanks. For this next question, we'll start with Zach. It comes from Alex Stam from Butler. The state YMCA lost $40,000 due to the coronavirus. How do you plan to run and grow the program on what will most likely be a smaller budget?
Absolutely. So first off, I want to help bring some of those funds back. So what I was specifically talking about earlier, I think John and I both agree on this. He initially introduced it, but I want to work with him regardless of who's elected. Corporate sponsorships. I think companies are generally very generous to the club, and bringing in money from those would be awesome. Fundraising. I talked to the California Youth Governor, Aidan Blaine, on a fundraising program they actually do. It's a competition for delegates together to see who can raise the most funds for the program. I want to bring some of those funds back to the state YMCA, and then I want to also just ensure we're doing the most efficient possible policies to ensure that we're not overspending.
Thank you, Zach. Now to John.
Well, delegates, I want to get started by saying that my platform will cost the state YMCA a total of $0. I have plans to bring back the Hoove app, something used last year by Governor Sharma that wasn't going to continue this year. It would cost the state YMCA $2,000, but I have a plan in place to initiate corporate sponsorships, like Zach said. So that being said, I think my plan is fiscally responsible, and I think we need to take into account that the state of the economy post this coronavirus is going to be in a slump, and we're going to need to take into account that a lot of people will have lost their jobs,
Thank
and
you.
we have to be compassionate with delegates and the costs associated with this program.
Thank you. And Anna?
So like John, none of my platform actually will cost the state YMCA anything personally. And also, I know that lots of clubs work on their own fundraising throughout the year, and I want to create resources so that we can all collect facts about fundraising and ideas and just help each other throughout the state continue to raise money for our own programs and to help people that might need help paying for their own model services.
This next question comes from Chandler Miller from Butler. What makes you the most experienced candidate? We'll start with John.
When I take office as youth governor, it will be my 6th year in youth and government. I will have served as NOC president and delegation leader, Blue Senate committee chair, and I will be the only candidate in this running for governor this year who ever have served in the Blue chamber. I'll also be the only candidate who will have ever attended a national conference on multiple occasions. So I think that it's my experience that can truly put this program over the top to transcend this period of chaos and discord that's going to be facing our program with a 2-year gap and a model convention. Thank you.
Great. Anna?
So within my club, I've held 2 different positions, reviewing bills and working with people one-on-one. And then last year, I was also a Senate committee chair, and I also attended the Kona delegation. But I don't think that experience is something that we can really throw into the governor position, because there's nothing really that can prepare you for being governor and being in charge of all these different branches unless that you've been in every single branch and held leadership positions. So I definitely think that my platform will help me to work with everyone to make sure that we're working cohesively and working together and taking into account every single delegate.
Thank you. Zach?
So I don't think experience is something easily quantifiable. I think every candidate in here has substantial experience. I've been a 2-time state committee chair in both. I was elected to serve in the Blue House committee chair. I was a Gold Senate committee chair last year. I am the legislative president of my club. I oversee 40 legislative delegates. I've been to the Kona Conference on National Affairs. These are all crucial positions that many of us have held that could prepare us for governor. What really matters, I think, most in this election is the plan you have to set forth to help oversee this program. On day 1, I plan on assembling a governor's advisory board to help account for this coronavirus problem. And I think a lot of those policies are what matter a lot more.
Thank you. For this next question, this is a little bit similar, but specifically looking forward to next year, comes from Ashton Ruley from Butler. What are some examples of past leadership that give voters confidence that you will be there to prepare us for Model 2021? For this one, we'll start with Anna.
Past leadership that I know will help me to continue forward next year. So as a committee chair, I definitely had experience working with different delegates throughout the state and understanding different bills, and also understanding the responsibilities that come with being committee chair. So I'll be able to help in that regard. And just within my club, I've also held many positions, and my club is very large, so I work with lots of people on a daily basis with that. So I definitely think that that will help me a lot to prepare for next year.
Great. Zach?
So some past examples, last year I ran for lieutenant governor against an incumbent Gold LT. So obviously it was going to be an uphill battle, but I wanted to make sure that there were Senate reforms in place and that was out there because I want to fight for delegates. As a Conference on National Affairs delegate, I've utilized national connections and I've tried to be a leader, not just at the state level, but at the national level on pioneering policy for youth and government programs. As a committee chair last year, I had to deal with a lot of flexibility. My top 2 bills, one of them had Lyme disease, and then the other one ended up switching the House. So flexibility is something that I've also really encouraged as a leader. I think I've shown a lot of these qualities. That help.
All right. So delegates, I reached out to every delegation that exists in Pennsylvania youth and government throughout the course of my campaign, attending 12 meetings, whether virtually or in person. And, I virtually attended a meeting with the Rocky Run delegation. They never even knew that elections convention existed this year. So I think that my communication to every delegation throughout the course of my campaign is something that I'm going to carry through to my 10 years youth governor. I'm pledging to attend a meeting, whether virtually or in person, of every delegation that exists in Pennsylvania youth and government. leading up to next year's model convention. And I also want to note that I have overseen all three branches of NOC delegation president. Thank you.
We have 3 questions left. This one comes from Ryan Gaffar from Rosie. Throughout all your years in this program, who has inspired you the most, and why, and what do you do to try to model after them?
Rishan Sharma, he was the governor last year, and he's someone I consider a close friend and almost I look up to as an older brother figure, has definitely been my greatest inspiration in youth and government. And I think it's his compassion, something that's really inspired me, and that it's what I want to bring to the stage as governor. Last year before model, my great aunt actually died, and Rishan was the first person I reached out to because I wanted to make sure that wouldn't interrupt the model conference too much. And he really brought things into perspective for me, made me feel a lot better for that conference. So I think being a consoling and compassionate force as a governor is something I would really like to have, and I really look up to Rishan in that. It's something I want to bring forth as a governor.
Thanks, Zach. Now to John.
My YAG role model is Nathaniel Pettit. I know this is 5 years ago that he graduated from this program, but when I first started in this program, he was the NOC delegation president. And as a current NOC delegation president, first of all, filling his shoes, but there would not be a NOC delegation if it wasn't for Nathaniel Pettit. 2 years before I joined, the NOC delegation had 2 members. So he gave me tips and tricks on how to grow the program. And I watched him fight so hard to be the gold speaker of the House, beating Max Myers from Somerset. And so he's been somebody that truly gave me a lot of advice, and I've really looked up to, not only as my time in the club, but as the years went on.
Thank you. Anna?
Someone that really inspired me within YAG was Rafe Nasir. So he was the Blue Lieutenant Governor one year, and then he was also my delegation leader. He was very compassionate and always liked to work one-on-one with people, and he just talked to them and would help them out. And he was just a great leader and very compassionate, very helpful, and I just really looked up to him when I was younger in the program, and I really think that he did great things for our program.
Next question, Avery Covert and Will Petzinger, both from Butler, actually submitted the same question. And that is, how will you ensure that smaller delegations are more included in the program? We'll start with John.
As the only candidate running for youth governor this year that's truly from a smaller delegation, I think I offer valuable insight. I spent 30 minutes on the phone with the delegation leader of Potts Grove last month, talking about how he can grow his delegation and giving some of the tips and tricks that I have learned from when NOC had 2 delegates back when Nathaniel Pettit brought it back from the ground. Whether it be writing letters to various members at school. And I think by reaching out to every delegation that exists in youth and government, I truly showed my commitment to not only the larger delegations, but the smaller delegations. And it's time that every delegation is included.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna?
To make sure that smaller delegations are more included in our program, I definitely want to make sure that they're all attending conferences and making sure that we're all working together. So I definitely want to reach out to them personally and see if they have any problems, any issues that I can help solve. And then with my mentorship program in judicial, I'm helping them be more included in judicial and help out with that. And then I'm intending to put out more resources for them to recruit, but also more resources for them to learn about the different branches and everything like that.
Great, thank you. Zach?
Okay, first off, I think we have to dispel with this fiction that any candidate running for any PO position this year can truly say they understand the struggles of smaller delegations. Every candidate in this room is in a delegation of 27 plus with multiple state leaders, including justices, chairs, and highly successful presiding officer candidates. So that's not in touch with delegations I've reached out to, like Plymouth, White Marsh, and Homer, who are delegations of 3 and 5. My policies as governor, I've tried to reach out to these delegations as much as possible in my campaign. My policies as governor regarding ranked choice voting would help provide safeguards for them in the election process, as well as prior experience with Rosie growing from a small delegation to a large delegation, bringing up numbers in the delegation.
All right, our final question here is from Cade Weaver, also from Butler. His question is, how will you ensure that being a lobbyist is more worthwhile?
So to ensure that being a lobbyist is more worthwhile, I definitely want to focus more on the work that they do throughout the year and all the focus that they put into all their topics and working with people. But also part of my platform is to have them work with press delegates throughout the year when they're not as busy doing other things, to have them write articles together so that they can help legislative delegates through debate, but also just to make sure that we're increasing more collaboration between branches, because I definitely think that when they interact more, it's definitely more relevant.
Absolutely. So one of the things I want to do is introduce advertisements for lobbyists. So these would be written arguments in support or against bills placed directly in the bill book, much like a bill. So it wouldn't cost any additional funds to the program because we're only looking at maybe a 10-page difference. It would be the same to the model cast plus fundraising efforts I want would hopefully curb this. So it wouldn't be an additional cost to the program, and it would allow for them to have more of an impact on the legislative process, as well as I want them to organize into business sectors, more like the real world, so they can cover a variety of topics, not just one.
Thank you. And John, wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you. So I will cut through red tape and make sure all lobbyists have a chance to speak in committees throughout their the model convention. So over the last 9 months, talking to lobbyists from all across Pennsylvania, I found that one of the biggest things plaguing them is the committee chair calendars are often ever changing. So I'm going to allow lobbyists to speak in committee without scheduling ahead of time. And I've got a lot of questions about this in the campaign trail. So I'm going to do this by still giving rights to the bill author by allowing them to deny these speeches by lobbyists who just walk in and speak without scheduling ahead of time. But the practice of scheduling ahead of time will still stay in place, and those lobbyists will be guaranteed the right to speak. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so that concludes our Governor's Town Hall. Thank you to all three of you for participating, and thank you to everyone that submitted questions. This is not the only town hall going on, so posted on Friday will be the town halls for every other candidate running for a presiding officer position at Virtual Model, which will take place on Saturday, April 18th. You can find all the information to be a part of that on either my Instagram, PAGovSam, or just the YMCA PA YAG Instagram are great places to start. And then voting for these candidates will start on April 20th. An electronic ballot will be sent out, so you'll have the opportunity to cast your vote for one of these three fine people. So that wraps us up. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay safe, and I hope to see you at Virtual Model.